Hey everyone, it's Evangeline right here at eTrailer. Today we have the SeaSucker Universal Recovery Board mounts. This is going to be a set of 2 mounts that allow you to carry boards different shapes and sizes. So if you're overlanding or you're going on adventures and you want to make sure that you have your recovery boards, but you might be limited on locations for where you can mount these boards, or you may want them off the side so you can save your roof space for all kinds of other accessories, these might be the vacuum cup mounts for you. If you're not familiar with SeaSucker products, SeaSucker is a brand that utilizes vacuum cup mounts for all kinds of different accessories. So from making roof racks to a hand grip to this recovery board mount. So the brackets are all going to be different, but the concept is still the same. You have this vacuum cup that has, in our case, 120 pounds of pull strength per cup. And that way, even if you have your heavier boards, even if you're going through some pretty interesting situations, you know that you're going to have a very secure fit on your vehicle. This can carry 1 to 4 recovery boards depending on the thickness of the board, not the weight, because you do have a weight capacity of 480 pounds pull strength because you have those 4 mounts. So for the thickness of the board, you do have to consider this hex knob here. The hex knob pushes against the board and tightens them down. So if you did have this threaded on there and you had up to 4 boards, if you measure from the back of the board to the back of that hex knob, you can get up to 1.5 inches of space. So that's just something to keep in mind if you have, let's say, maybe larger or thicker boards, or if you want to carry up to 4. But what about different types of boards? Today I have the MaxTrax MK2 boards, and this is going to be your pretty standard recovery board size. But what if you have something smaller? Let's say the Caliber X-Trax here. They're going to be a bit smaller. What makes this a recovery or universal recovery board mount is the adjustability of your mounts. If you loosen the nuts on your bolts, you can adjust them for different spacings, which is great for the different types of recovery boards. So this can go as far apart as 12.5 inches and as close together as 4.25 inches, which is actually perfect for our Caliber recovery board. You can see how even our smaller board is able to fit with this universal mount. All you would need to do at this point is move the other mount closer together to line up with those spots. In fact, with a smaller board like this, I could even attach it on the top and bottom with the boards. I could move this around so it would be better able to fit the pinholes on the boards. I can even mount this recovery board vertically if I felt that that was more streamlined or it made more sense with my setup. And so that's really going to be the beauty of a SeaSucker product. They give you the base system. You have your vacuum cup mounts, you have your cool plunger, and you have your super strong base. And then it's up to you to figure out how to make it work best for your different trailers and your different vehicles. And that way, your recovery board is always available and ready whenever you need it. So if you're planning on going overlanding, or you're just planning on going to some spots where you feel like you may need a recovery board, and you're just trying to figure out what's the best and easiest and quickest way to get that mounted onto your vehicle, this might be the option for you. If you're curious about how to install it, put it together, or even how to maintain your universal recovery mount, well, stick around and I'll show you how I got this onto our teardrop trailer. The very first thing to do is just double check for a good spot on your vehicle for your recovery boards. So I just grabbed the boards and I lift it up over here. This seems like a good spot where it's still accessible, but also not in the way of anything else. And once we have that, we're then going to set up our mounts. So you're going to get your long bolts, and then you're going to get your nuts and your small washers. If you have larger washers, those are going to be for a later step. You're also going to have some included tools with your kit. you are going to need these to tighten down your first step. So grab a bolt, put a washer on, and then put the bolt up from underneath the board mount. You're then going to add another washer on top, and then put the nut on that. You're then going to tighten down, and since this is a really long thread, I have a special trick for that. I just go ahead and grab a 7/32 Allen key bit, and I'm just going to use this to tighten down that nut. Now, this works because it is a long thread, saves me a lot of time, but definitely hand tighten those last couple threads. To know where to tighten to, you can mock it up on your recovery board. So you can line this up to match the holes on the board if you need to move these bolts further away or close together. So right here looks pretty good. So since that's going to be the spot we want, I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down with my wrench and included Allen key. Now do the same thing for the other side. And what I actually did is I already set up for our board, so I'll show you how I did that in a second. But you're then going to get your recovery board mounts and take off these plastic caps. Do not throw these away. This is not packaging. That is supposed to be put back on whenever you store your mount. That way when it's sitting in the garage, you're still protecting that vacuum pad with these plastic caps. Now we're then going to put this onto our vehicle. Now ideally, you will want your vacuum cups to be facing the inside. That will get you the best fit for your board. So if you're trying to figure out, well, where do I put them? Well, we're gonna set up one board first and then see where's the best spot for the other. To get ourselves set up for actually installing the board, what I'm actually gonna do is go ahead and put a flat washer on all those nuts. And then we're just going to get this, bring it behind our board, making sure that the vacuum cup is facing the inside, like that. And then we're going to find a spot here on our vehicle where everything looks level. So I think this looks pretty good. And then I'm just gonna secure it. The best way to do this is to push against the board and against that pad, and then we're going to depress the plunger. If you struggle with this process, maybe you're not getting a good fit right away, then go ahead and take off the boards. That might make things a little bit easier, and or add some water underneath that vacuum pad. But here we've depressed the plunger until we no longer see orange, so we're gonna do the same up above. We'll finish it out by putting another flat washer over the bolt and over the board, and then we're gonna put these hex knobs on and tighten those down. There's gonna be a fair amount of thread there, but that's also a good thing because then you know you're gonna have a secure fit. Another benefit to that hex knob design is then you don't need any tools or wrenches to secure or take off your recovery boards. And from this point onwards, it's just gonna be super easy from here. Really, most of the installation is getting these mounts to match your boards. If you're only using them for these specific boards, then it's simply a matter of undoing the vacuum and putting away for storage, and then just putting the vacuum cups back on and tightening everything back down. No more measuring or tools required from this point downwards. So hopefully this video helped you out with just seeing how to set this up. This process may be a little bit different if you have larger or smaller recovery boards, but this is going to be your installation of your SeaSucker Universal Recovery Board Mount.